Andy's clerking.
I guess
Clerking.
I'm clerk of the works. I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Commonwealth Budget Committee, March 17, 2025.
First thing we need to do, I believe, is approve the very brief minutes from the standalone meeting that this committee had on. Was the report? Yes, they have been distributed. They were very brief. It's a very brief conversation.
We get a motion on the minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I believe it was, maybe it was the 10th. No, I have it. It's the 10th. It's February 10th. It was a brief meeting. Can I just describe it?
Yep.
Okay, it was a brief meeting held after the Joint Select Board Budget Committee meeting. We voted to elect a committee chair and secretary because we hadn't formally done that at that point. There were no minutes to approve, and then we had just general discussion about the way notes and minutes would be captured and incorporated into the select board if it was part of the joint meeting, and recorded separately and approved by this committee if it was a standalone meeting. And that's it. That was basically what we talked about. If anyone would like to see them, here they are.
I'd move to approve the minutes as written.
Second that.
Okay, any amendments? Looks good.
All those in favor
Great, thank you.
and opposed?
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, public comment. There's no public here, so I guess we won't have any public comment. New business, select board stipend review. And at this point in time, I will zip my lip.
So just to recap, it is the Budget Committee's oversight on the Select Board stipends. So when I presented compensation last week, I had just built in the COLA 4% as a starting point. So now the floor is all yours to discuss.
And so, what is the existing stipend for select board members?
So the current existing one is 16,532 a year. I don't have the exact breakdown in front of me. I did figure that out for this year, but it's close to the chair getting 495 and the other two members getting 450 or 45, 450 a month.
It was in the notes that you sent us.
Yeah, I think it was in the notes, yeah. So with the 4% COLA, it puts it at 17,194. So the chair would be getting 515. Hang on, my computer wants to keep connecting to a printer. 515.79, and then the regular members would get 458.47 per month.
Did we add the performance factor in last time?
No, so this is just COLA. So what you had discussed was every 3 years, discussing if the COLA was making, the correct amount with the labor market, and this would be the third year to look at a performance. You have not done a performance since 2021 was the last time that they discussed any sort of performance for the select board.
Performance or did a comp comparison?
They really didn't do either in 2021. They kind of had a discussion and came up with a figure based on how much they thought they were.
I think I recall actually doing investigation on comparables from other
We
towns.
did look at the.
Yeah.
Did they in
We
2021?
did do that.
I mean, they talked about what a town manager form of government looks like and what select boards were getting, and then what office staff was getting paid, and kind of coming up with the difference, but I wasn't sure if there was
I
anything.
think we did. I think that was something that we thought was like worthwhile
Right.
to get a sense. It was a little bit challenging because we had to find a town that was about similar size, that had like a similar structure of how they divvied up the work. And some towns have, yeah, like you mentioned, have like a town manager or, not all of the same work falls to the select people.
Right.
So
So that was 2022. Let me correct, that wasn't 2021, that's 2022.
So this would be the last year of that current plan, right? Which means that the next budget committee iteration, we would be potentially reevaluating.
324, this is, coming in, well, 25 would have been the third, so we're going into 2026. So it should be this year that you should be just looking, is the COLA keeping up with the market, or do you need to reevaluate?
See, my memory is that we agreed to that last year. So maybe it had been agreed to previously also.
It was more than last year. We weren't even, it was before we even had the AV equipment. I think we were doing budget downstairs at the time. So that was more than 2 years ago that we were doing the budget.
Okay, well, we didn't do it this year, right? So we'd have to commit as easy for me to say, commit as a committee to do this before the next cycle. Does that seem like a reasonable commitment for the committee to make?
I think, oh, go ahead, Jen.
I guess one thing, I guess I'd like to I really value the work of the select board members. And I know it's a lot, and it's more than just like the meetings that they're attending. There's all sorts of work that goes on behind the scenes, and like emails and phone calls and just like legwork, right, that has to happen. And I do think it's really important that they get compensated fairly. I think as a taxpayer, I also want to just see like what the overall increase is going to be this year for the budgets for all of the different town departments, and then kind of put this, it just makes more sense to me to like put this decision more like kind of at the end to see. And in my mind, I'm really just thinking about that performance part. I think the COLA part feels very fair, and like we should absolutely be increasing that stipend for cost of living, just like on par with other things. That's my opinion. But the performance part, I would feel more comfortable reviewing that part after we kind of see what the change is going to be financially to be able to like, for the budget for next year. If that makes sense.
So how would you, I'm not
Yeah.
challenging the idea, but how would you use that information to make this decision?
I think that maybe I would be less inclined to do the performance increase if the budget's going to go up, if we're going to be spending a lot more money as a town to cover all of our bases.
And you're talking about the future budget, not looking at the performance against the existing budget.
Yes.
And I have the stipend history pulled up here too. So it looks like in fiscal year 23, we did a 20% increase. So that was the assessment. And then 24 was a 7% increase. 25 was a proposed 3%, which I believe was what was accepted. I think I might have missed that year. And so now we'd be looking at the 4% COLA this year. So I think, I understand what you're saying, Jennifer. Like, I think that makes sense to consider it in the context of the overall town budget and what we're doing with other departments as well. That said, I feel like based on the increases that we've done, I do think we're probably in the green to accept the COLA as is, and then make a commitment to next cycle reevaluating kind of if there's a step ladder change needed in comparison to what's going on with other towns. I think the other benefit of doing that is just given the current macroeconomic environment and kind of a lot of uncertainty that we're seeing there across, like, especially local small businesses, but I mean, across the board in the US, like it may make sense to be a little more cautious around increasing that compensation this year. Again, not discrediting all the hard work that the select board does, but just trying to consider it, to Jennifer's point, in the context of what's going on with the town and the broader state. So I don't know if others would agree with that or disagree, but.
Those are all good points. I'm obviously new to this. I'm wondering too, kind of when we talk about, performance-based increases versus just COLA, what is the performance-based increases? Or what are we referring to there?
It's a good call. I feel like performance is probably not the right terminology here. I think previously we did just kind of comparable comps, right? So we looked at comparable towns, which I think is probably a fair way to do it. And to Jennifer's point, given kind of the idiosyncrasies of each town, it's hard to find a good comp at that, but even harder, I think, to measure performance, given all the different things the select board has to juggle. But I don't know if there is a performance metric that we've used historically, or?
Not with the select board, you're right. I think using performance is not necessarily the correct. I think what you were doing is doing COLA and every 3 years realigning, with
Okay,
labor
that's different
market.
then.
Yeah, I think performance, because with regular town employees, we do COLA plus performance based.
Oh, you
Like,
do a
that's-
review. There's an actual performance review.
With the select board?
No, with the other
With us,
employees.
yes,
Yes,
with
with
us,
the other
yes.
employees, right.
And the select board does open it to, when we have our evals, to ask them questions and kind of, have that open conversation with them as far as, their performance in support to us. So they're very open with that dialogue. So we do have that option, but officially, I think really we're talking more like a labor market.
Market adjustment,
realignment
yeah.
Or market adjustment.
Agreed.
It's good clarification.
Yeah, it is a good call raising that.
Which the only metric you really have is the MMA salary survey for the state.
I think it was Bo that said in the previous one that their performance is the election. Because, whether they're reelected or, and how the votes goes is kind of your performance eval for a select board. That was how, I remember Bo saying that in a recent year.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
And so this is good. If we all agree that that is the right way to look at it, that it's really about the COLA and then looking at a labor market adjustment every 3 years, but not an actual performance adjustment, because we have no standard by which we've agreed we would measure the performance of the select board.
Mhm.
Is everyone comfortable with that? Okay.
Yeah. I think it's also the language part of it too. It's like performance isn't, that we have no way of measuring.
We can't measure it.
Yeah,
But we could decide we were
Yeah.
going to, I
Well, let
suppose.
me do a couple of numbers.
You're gonna do a couple numbers for us?
That would be my performance.
So let me ask our liaison as a select person, is what we're describing now, is that the general understanding, you would say, between you, John, and Kate?
I wouldn't say that there's any understanding as far as,
This isn't opposed to what anybody
No.
would understand?
No.
No one would go, no, that's not what I thought.
there's been many years that the select board has gotten no increase. And then there's been years that they've gotten an increase. I mean, when I first came on, they hadn't seen an increase in probably 5 years.
It was like $11,000 for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just stayed at 11 for a long
Hey,
time.
Matt, recap that, would you? 20,
So in fiscal year 23, it increased 20% to $15,000 total. That was up from 12,500 the prior year. And then it moved to $16,050, a 7% increase, and then a 3% increase the following year, I believe.
okay. Okay, so,
So from my perspective, I would, I know we're not kind of like moving to approve here, but from my perspective, the 4% COLA would be an appropriate step at this point, and then we would do a market adjustment next year. So it would be 3
why don't you
years.
make a motion to that effect?
Okay, I'd make a motion to accept the 4% proposed COLA increase for the stipend compensation this year, with a plan for the budget committee to review a market adjustment next budget cycle.
Second. Any further discussion? Good, everyone feels good? Okay, should we vote? All in favor? Okay, great, we've got it, great, thanks, Matt. Good leadership.
Showing up late, yeah.
What we need.
All right.
Okay, so Andy, I think now we need to,
Review the budget requests.
So can I just so I can capture all this accurately, I believe the way we have done it in the past, and I know Becky, you have some updates to give us, right?
I do.
Okay, but I believe the way we have done it in the past, except I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, is that we go bottom line by bottom line for each of the major components, right?
That is correct.
And one of us says something to the effect of, and you can correct me here, I move that the budget committee recommend that the town raise and appropriate for taxes, if it's that kind of a thing, X dollars for whatever the line is. And then we get a second, then we have a discussion, and then we vote. And we
That's
do that for each one of the lines,
Each one of the.
major bottom
departments,
lines.
yes.
Okay, okay. And I think in the past, it's worked efficiently if one of us does, if we just, one of us makes the motion every time and another seconds, and then we focus on the discussion, if that makes sense to everybody. Except I can't do the motion because I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Yeah, but before you do that, we probably ought to.
We will.
Make the adjustment.
Yes, let's make the adjustments.
Adjustments, and then
We'll do that by line, by category.
there's just a
right?
couple,
Okay.
yeah, there's just a couple
Okay,
changes
that's
that
fine.
have come
Now I
out
can
of
take
the
notes.
workshop that we had last week and one prior to the workshop since presentation. So I
Okay.
just want to do updates there. And then you had a spreadsheet that these numbers went into that gave you the bottom line.
Mhm.
Do you have that? Because we can make adjustments to it.
I'm pulling up this sheet right.
Okay,
now.
because I don't have like the bottom line numbers. Mine's all broke out into sections. So the two that we're going to discuss are the public safety and the general government. I'm going to do the public safety one real quick because that's super simple. So let me just pull it up. Sure.
Something I probably should have asked earlier, but in terms of the budget in general,
Mhm.
where does, like, thinking about, you know, the budget being more or less by 4% or 10%, what have you, what's our baseline for like what we are we trying to fit the budget into some number based on what we have available or forecasting? Just trying to think about like where
So are you
the available funds versus the.
Are you asking like, does the select board say that we're going to try to only have a 3% overall operational budget increase, or are you?
Just thinking about how we decide on something like that. Like, is it based on like the revenues and the tax we have plus the surplus in terms of like, oh, we're approving $20,000 more this year for like.
So that's all part of it. So your oversight is the expenses. So you will not motion on revenues at all. That's just the select board. However, we have you be there during that because it's important to know what we're forecasting for revenues when you're thinking about it. It's also why we want you to be a part of any committee requests so that you know that these pieces are not yearly requests, but it might be this, you know, this particular one for this year. So you have that sort of food in the background as you're doing this. But I mean, typically you're looking at the department, you've heard our presentations, you've questioned the department heads as to increases and the whys and the hows, and now it's your deliberation to determine if those are needs that you feel adequate to request. So this is kind of where we're at this point. So I'm going to give you updates, and then you should probably have a general discussion about each one. And then if you're ready to motion, you motion. And
Has it ever run along the lines of what Jenna just suggested in history? Like, has the budget committee ever said, we're going to set a goal of not exceeding a 4% increase, and looked at it afterwards and then said, okay, we need to go back to the departments and ask them to make reductions? Has
Not in
that
my
ever
time.
happened? Has it ever?
not in my time, but I don't know historically.
It
if
has
that-
not happened in my time. The select board has set goals for increases in the past. But not.
That's what you're asking, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just kind of seeing like, you know, are we trying to
Not,
get a certain number?
So
or
much
be
in-
cognizant of where we're landing versus where we're starting from.
in recent years, we haven't. Probably starting with the pandemic. Because there has been so much fiscal uncertainty during and since the pandemic. Supply chain issues, the inflation on vehicles and equipment. It's been unpredictable.
On the labor market,
And the labor.
the labor market's been hard.
Yeah, just curious, yeah, that helps.
I think this is a great point, though, right? Is that part of our, seems like it would be part of our responsibility with the select board to say, okay, this is the parameters for what we want to, although when you listen to the budget presentations, that is our opportunity to say, that doesn't make sense to me. And there's that, they're very well defended, right? I mean, the budget presentations are well defended, and I feel like in a really good amount of effort, especially with the two big, well, the three, yours and then the Public Works and then Chief Peters, I feel like they put a lot of effort into finding places to cut, be more economical, not order things that we don't need, but also make sure that the town is getting the services that they need. I felt like this year there were more increases than last year in the bottom line. I think last year, I think we're going to see that when we look at the bottom line number. But I think that is worth consideration going into next year's, just to talk to the select board about.
Then it would be, you'd want to have a meeting with the select board prior to the budget process.
Yeah, before the
Say,
budget
"Hey, let's
process.
set a-
Yeah.
Let's set a goal. for-"
Normally, we have a kickoff meeting in December, and that would be a point in time.
Right.
Yeah. We were slightly a little behind in the startup of the process, so this year.
Yeah, that helps, thank you. And
Okay,
I
now it's a
think
great question.
too, something that, or learning too, is that I think, so budget committee is mostly more so for expenses of the town, and then, we hear also like newly proposed budgets, but select board is more so deciding upon like those, okay. But it obviously is all related to budget, so it makes sense.
Right. For instance, last week when CAP committee did their presentation, then the select board discussed how they are going to put a warrant article to move from unassigned fund value this year, as they've done in the past. So that's something to just, to know that that's coming as well. That just helps smooth that line as it goes. And it just gives you that little bit of extra information as the CAP committee comes each year in front of you, and why those requests are changing a little bit, because the select board is trying to use taxpayers' money and unassigned fund value towards, a further out goal as well.
And then also the mitigating, using some of the
Unassigned fund.
unassigned funds, right, to mitigate tax impact.
Correct.
To
So
the extent possible.
they have a warrant article this year too, so it's going to be additional revenues to help mitigate any tax mill rate increase. And that's
Which is good, because that's using taxpayer money to
using taxpayers' money. Absolutely.
Yeah.
avoid a tax
It's your
increase,
money.
right? But that, right, okay, good. Okay, great.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, really good, thanks.
So the select board talked at their workshop last week about offering level 2 benefits to the fire chief. So I have added in under his administration line, a health insurance line. Now, the way he's set up right now, he wouldn't need to take it until January. So we would do the health insurance buyout option for July 1 to December 31st. And that's 25% of the annual premium for someone who has a qualifying plan, which he would in this case. And then I budgeted potential 6% increase from January to July, because we just don't know what it could look like. And so that is an additional $8,071 put into his admin line to cover what the town will pay. So that changes his admin line to 11,436. So that was that change there. The one thing I didn't get a chance to was, hang on, let me put it in, is he's got an end of the year, 11,436 department total. So that makes his request 233,815.
And you said the select board approved this?
This is what they talked about at the workshop last week.
Oh, at the workshop, okay.
233 what?
233,815 would be his FY 26 request for everything. Final number. So that's a 26.5% increase in that budget.
Was that the first of two things we're going to tell us about?
There
You're
is,
gonna
I
tell us
didn't
about the
know
first
if you.
one. Okay,
you
no,
had
I just couldn't
questions
remember if I
first.
missed it
Yeah,
or.
there will be a general government change too.
Okay.
I'm sure, Matt, could you email us the latest spreadsheet you have?
Yeah, I'm trying to update it now, so yeah. Sorry.
So I was just waiting on questions, like we can go through the changes and then make sure that the sheet is updated.
Yeah.
And if you want to send one, I can always run down and print it, so Donna has, we have something. to
Again,
look at.
the other big driver for his increase is two drivers. We have to do a pump refurb on engine two. That's $10,000. And then there's additional payroll expenses because of new members.
Yeah.
The membership is basically doubled,
I know, it's incredible.
which is incredibly, it's good news and it's bad news from a fiscal standpoint, but it's great news for the town.
What?
Uh,
Not to confuse you, Matt, that should actually be under compensation, not admin, so. Let me. change it.
and gear
Right.
for those people, they need to be outfitted. Like
Is-
NFPA
Yep.
standards.
Does level 2 benefits mean individual plus family? Is that what that means?
No.
No.
That's 75% of the individual policy is paid by the town.
So my apologies, I put that on the admin, it really should be under compensation, so we're fixing that, so the admin line can change, and then compensation makes it be.
And then what's the other one? What's level one?
Level one is
full-time.
100% for the employee.
Oh, okay,
And then
okay,
they
okay.
pick up, what, 80%, 20% of the family.
Correct.
But it doesn't change. Because it's on the wrong line, it doesn't change the bottom line.
It
Still-
doesn't change the bottom line, but just next year moving forward, I wanted it in the right section.
Yeah.
Bottom line is the same.
Just level one, I just want to make sure, I might not put this in the notes, but just for my own. So level one is 100% of the employee and 80% of the family, or 20%?
80%.
80% of the family, 20% covered by the employee.
Right.
Level
Level two is 75% individual policy, no family.
It's 75 for any of the plans, 75 for family or single, in level 2. So the town will cover 75%
Oh,
of any
okay.
of the plans, and the employee covers 25 for level 2.
Okay, okay.
And then any other benefits are employee elected, the town does not put in for dental or anything, any level.
Okay, okay, got it.
So this is health insurance.
I think it's.
Go ahead.
You like me to go down the door now, because I don't think we're gonna have public coming in.
So are there any other questions about the things? Do you want to hear the administration issue?
Yes.
Okay, the dental
I'm
coverage.
gonna stay for this.
Hey, sorry, let me get in there. Okay, so the change in the general government was we actually did go back into the planning board section and we added in 30,000 for the consultant line. Now, when I presented at the time, we had zeroed it out. But looking at some directions that we're coming into in this next fiscal year, the select board felt we needed that consultant line put back in. So that changes the general government line to 202,445.
It was $30,000?
30.
I thought there still was a,
There are two consultant lines for two
Oh.
different purposes now. So we had
Okay.
originally in the planning board, as we came into having it on staff town planner. We didn't need the ordinance review that North Star was
Right.
doing and the subdivision review, because that was all gonna be done in-house. So we moved it down to $10,000 in the planning board line for support for the town. Then we thought about that, and we're like, it's really not supporting the planning board anymore. That line could be for me, the CEO, or the town planner, so we moved that 10,000 up. Because we are looking at a TIF district,
Yeah.
again, maybe for another area. And some other stuff coming up in the planning with economic development and codes and things like that. And then when we got talking about some other things and changes in direction that the planning board is the select board is considering coming into this fiscal year, we're like, oh, we need the planning board to have that consultant line back in there at 30,000. So that was re-added after my presentation.
Okay, all right, so
That's
the,
What was the final again?
So it is 202,445. That is general government operating budget without compensation right now, okay? Just for clarification,
And what is the percentage on that?
that's a total of a 20% in the operating. The only other change was to the public works after the presentation. We spent some time just checking the figures and the math.
Yeah.
And that got recirculated. out.
Yes,
But
yeah.
there's been no other additions or changes.
Yeah,
since his
right,
presentation.
it
It's
didn't
fine.
change the content, it just changed where the numbers were on the page, because the spreadsheet wasn't right. Yeah, okay, got
we
it.
just made the. So there might be some easier ones to go through, like solid waste debt service, human malakal, that haven't had any changes, that simpler numbers if you want to go to those and then kind of circle back on those, but I do like to. That's it, or we can just keep on with general government. Doing that is on the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I can help you.
I think Matt needs glasses.
So I updated the form sheet earlier, I have two identical laptops. One is for personal, and I took the personal one. So, anyway.
I could actually have Matt email that to this email. We can put you up on it.
Do we want to just go through the budget sheet? Through
Yeah,
some of these like.
it's just, how many lines total is it? Bottom lines? Not that many.
Think about 9.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like 9 or 10,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so why don't we name the line, you can give me the bottom line, and then I'll make the motion, and then Matt, so you're not doing it all, right? If you could just name the line, I'll record it, give me the bottom line number, I'll make the motion, these guys can second it, we can have discussion, I think that would work.
So any final questions on anything before, I mean, if we get to it,
Well, we may end up having.
you may
discussion
have
as
some
we go.
questions
Right,
as
right.
you're motioning,
Right.
but just.
I'm just want to make sure that I'm on the right spreadsheet and that I'm like looking at the right information. That's the only question that I have.
Gotcha. It would have been sent last Thursday. So I
Yes.
sent,
So is it just called budgetsheet.xlsx?
Mhm.
And it was sent by budget committee at pownellmaine.org, which is you.
no, it would have come from Pownell
Well, it's
administrator.
forwarded from that.
Yes, she would have
And it
forwarded it,
was-
but it was sent last Thursday, so that was the 13th.
Oh,
The 13th, I recirculated the 3 department sheets back out to you so that we would have a clear email to start from.
I guess I'm looking. 11
Yeah, I
days
heard
ago.
I heard him the other day.
I got one 11 days ago that has the right number. It says the 20% increase and it says, it's got the right number in it that you just said out loud. So I was feeling confident
Well, hang
I
on.
found the right one. 202,445.
Hang on, I'm getting into. Well, that is weird because it went out Thursday morning. Okay. Give me a second. I can resend it right now. Can you log into the budget committee email? Okay. Because I don't have it set up with all of yours, so. On for a second. All right, it's not letting me. Did you find it? Good, because it's not letting me now pull them from being connected differently. No worries. All right, I'm gonna. I think it was the morning. Could have been the afternoon. You're gonna look at all of them. Yeah. So whichever one you want to start with.
So, yeah, solid waste might be an easy one to start with. I'll just finish it once.
What's the bottom line? No, it's okay. Thanks for doing it.
So I do have them on my sheet if that's helpful, Matt. I can read off the.
Okay.
So they had a separate sheet, but I incorporate them into a tab. So their final number is 172,562. The 13% increase over last year. That is mostly driven by the tonnage amount per ton going up, the amount of recycling going up, and our contract going up.
Okay. All right, so let's just get the motion on the table. Ready? Okay, I move that the Budget Committee recommends the town raise and appropriate from taxes $172,562 for solid waste. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay. Okay, so we're open for discussion.
Probably the most worrisome line item of all the budget line items. Just
Yeah.
there's no real way for us to reduce the cost here other than kind of, better public information, I guess, within the town on the savings we can get from recycling and maybe some longer term options, but doesn't seem like a clear path to reducing this one.
No, I agree. I think that the more we can communicate, though, in advance of the town meeting so that people understand how this is going to drive the overall expense. And I thought that, the chair did a really good job of just explaining that basically people are just putting more stuff in the garbage.
I think you mentioned it's like 20% more trash and 20% more recycling on both ends. That recycling is
Yeah.
much less expensive, but how much less percent?
Actually, I think it was Eco Maine was the driver of the increase.
Correct.
More than, so this year, Eco Maine was like driving more of the increase. But I remember, I think that's what we have in the notes actually too, is that it's 20%.
Kind of at the mercy of the recycling market, which is poor right now.
Mhm.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Cemeteries would be another quick one.
I was thinking debt service too.
Let's see if it's hap-
All right.
Okay, cemetery, what's the bottom line?
Cemetery bottom line is 8,500.
Okay,
It's a 42% increase. The major drivers are wages. They now have a crew where they didn't before. That's doing the necessary work for the upkeep. I do have the ability to pull from their general fund to balance their budget. However, I don't want to drain that general fund, so I wanted to be a little more accurate towards the actual numbers when budgeting.
okay, I move that the Budget Committee recommends that the town raise and appropriate from taxes $8,500 for cemetery. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay,
Open for discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor?
thank you.
Unanimous.
Well, we're on this tab. How about Pownell Center Water Association budget? That bottom line is 5,700. It is a 54% increase, mostly driven by the insurance change. We had to find a new insurance company. The association is looking into becoming members of MMA, and hopefully next year we'll have some good news on that one.
Okay, I move that the Budget Committee recommends that the town raise and appropriate from taxes $5,700 for, what's it called? PCWA, for PCWA. Second?
Second.
Okay,
Any discussion?
If we're looking at the tab PCWA and the row 8 and 8 through 10,
Mhm.
I think it says 1,200 still on both line items.
But the bottom line's 57 because it includes the town expense lines of 4,500 above.
Oh, I see, sorry.
Yep.
No discussion.
All those in favor?
We'll go to debt service. Debt service is our bonds. So the bottom line on debt service is $262,341. That is a decrease of 6% from last year.
Do I have a motion?
yes, I move that the Budget Committee recommends that the town raise and appropriate from taxes $262,341 for debt service.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Okay, great.
Another quick one will be the Recreation Committee. Their request was $500, same as last year. That's mostly to fund like porta potty or to help supplement their events.
Okay, I move that the Budget Committee recommends that the town raise and appropriate from taxes $500 for the Recreation Committee. Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Somebody with a key.
No, I think Kathy does a good job giving us huge amount of detail for such a little amount of money. And I think the committee's doing a terrific job and we should support them.
All those in favor?
Human Services. That is, bottom line is 10,500. That is a 3% decrease from last year, mostly driven because one of the places that we used to support is no longer around. So we removed it from the budget.
Can you give me that number again?
10,500.
For human services. Okay, I move that the Budget Committee recommends that the town raise and appropriate from taxes $10,500 for human services.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Jennifer, can we just take a quick pause just for a second? I just have to see, I might have an issue here. Okay, no, it's not an emergency. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Absolutely. Going to move to Mallet Hall. Mallet Hall's bottom line is 44,700. That is a 9% decrease over last year, mostly driven because at the time I estimated our painting line last year, we didn't have an actual estimate, and we've gotten an estimate, and now we're a little bit more educated there. So 44,700.
Okay, I move that the Budget Committee recommends that the town raise and appropriate from taxes $44,700 for Mallet Hall.
I hear a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Okay.
Yes.
Excuse me, that's, Becky, could you just tell me the year-over-year difference for the human services budget? I was distracted there.
It's down 9%.
Down 9%. Okay.
That's a good one to record. in a minute.
Yes, and Mallet
Like
Hall, and Mallet
decreases.
Hall is down 9%.
Decreases are good to highlight
know.
in this minute.
Oh, debt service was down 6%, Mallet Hall down 9%.
Mallet Hall, human services, I'm asking
Human
about.
services down 3%.
3%. Okay, thank you. So human services down 3%, Mallet Hall down 9%. Recreation Committee is equal to last year, debt services down 6%. Okay, got it. Thank you.
So now we're into the three major departments.
Right, let's
So
do those.
because I have a bottom line for fire department, public safety, I'm going to jump to that one. We've got to do for public works and mine, we need to add the compensation into it. So, but this one, we already have that. So public safety is $233,815. That is a 26 and a slightly 0.5% increase over last year.
Okay. I move that the Budget Committee recommends that the town raise and appropriate from taxes $233,815 for public safety.
Did I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay. So can we just recap some of the highlights of what we said before? So the major drivers here are an increase in volunteers, right?
Increase in membership. Yeah.
In membership and also officers, right? Because he has more officers than he did in the past. And then,
Yeah.
3 more.
3 more. And then all of the related training equipment. Gear, okay.
Yeah.
Gear. And then also there was a $10,000
Pump refurb.
right, pump. This is all in the minutes, but
Refurbishment.
refurbishment. Okay,
And the EMS transport contract as well had
Oh,
a
yes.
bigger increase.
that's right. Contract, and that's with Freeport, right?
Correct.
And an increase in our dispatching contractual increase.
And. Okay, and then that also includes the, providing the chief with level 2 benefits as the select board discussed at the workshop.
That's correct.
Okay.
But does that fall under this budget, the fire? It does, okay.
So the comp budget is separated out in presentations, but then it gets put back in. So you kind of hear Except for Chief Peters. So when Matt and I present, you're getting just our operation budget. When Chief Peters does it, he has comp already figured in, but I also have it in mind because it affects certain things too that I have to tie into. So his is a little bit different. So mine, actually, I think I have the math done as well. Public Works, we might have to just do the math when we get there, but
Yeah.
we're close.
For public safety, do you mind reading the number one more time?
I've got 233,815.
And the compensation for that number, is this one of the changes from earlier?
Correct, 71,279.
71,279.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, hang on.
Wait, hold on.
Let me make sure. Wait. Did not do the math.
Because I have 220,789.
Yep.
That's the total.
Let me go back, because I pulled it out of admin. Let's make sure that's right, 3365, admin. Oh, it's still showing in the admin. Hang on, let me redo this, 79,350. So 233,815 is what I got. Do you want to go section by section?
Sure.
Public safety, 53,743.
Okay, so that's the delta. 53,7.
Wow, right off the top.
Let me go and 53,743 in his line items and his department total. Admin, let me just check that. Admin should be down. Oh, see that one went in wrong. It should be yeah. So admin should be 3,365.
Yep.
Compensation be 7,9,350.
71,279.
So we added in the 8,000 for the health insurance there.
Okay.
So that's the 8,071. So it should be 79,350. Yep.
Right, so 233,815, right?
And then 223,815.
Yep.
Okay, we're there.
Beautiful.
It's good to double check.
So, all those in favor?
I do a lot of this double checking when I get to the warrant part, like checking those numbers back and forth. So I totally get it.
Speaking of the fire department.
All right, let me. I know. Move to general government. I have a final number of $672,009. It is a 19% increase. Just want to check a couple.
I'm going to recap.
Could I have that number again?
Yep, hang on, let me go back.
$672,009.
Thank you.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I move that the Budget Committee recommends that the town raise and appropriate from taxes $672,009 for general government. Second?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Jenna.
Any discussion?
Yeah, let's just recap some of the major changes there, because I know they're in the minutes, but that's a pretty big. I just want to put a few in here, and I can steal more from the minutes, but.
So the biggest driver in the operating budget is really adding in that extra planning consultant line of 30,000. There were quite a few decreases here and there. Some were with supplies going up. That was one of the other big drivers. We have to update codes books to the 20.
That's right, yeah, I had that.
The
yeah.
newest one.
And the
which-
codes books, that's right.
Yeah, so we got a couple to get them through and then we need to replace all of them. And that's basically like their building code, plumbing code, electrical code that we follow because we follow MUBEC. There was another bigger one there.
Was there also an increase in contracts with some of the software that we use?
Yes, so Trio goes up every year. So that was the next one I was going to point out, is that. And then our monthly IT always has, just a small increase each year, but mostly Trio is where the technology line had an increase of around 2,400.
And your total general government line,
Mhm.
to tie out there.
Let me get to my total. 672,009.
Yeah, and then I just to break down the lines. So
Sure.
for, I think starting with compensation, just to make sure, is it 421,244?
469,564.
64. Okay. And then- All good.
So I think it's important, so that you said before, let me just clarify, that the select board, I don't know if it was part of a workshop, but in their discussions, felt strongly that the $30,000 should be in the budget in anticipation of
Some changes.
some changes that are coming.
Yeah.
And so is the plan to give some examples of that as in preparation for the town meeting? It's a big number, right, to put back in. And I think people are anticipating, I'm not saying it doesn't
No, no.
belong there, but people are anticipating what we saw originally, which is that it would be reduced because we're not working with North Star. So I think it's really wise to plan for this if we know things are happening. But it seems like one of those,
There will
you know,
be-
when you get up
there
and
will be
talk
some
before a meeting.
examples. We have some legwork to do prior to that.
Just, so people understand that this is protecting us.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Other discussion?
All those in favor? Unanimous.
Okay, we're at Public Works, which I have split into two different spreadsheets, so this might.
Are we going to
be-
approve them together or separately?
Well, it'll be a bottom line, but it might mean
Okay.
me and Matt just need to kind of
Yeah.
go, I'm pulling up the Public Works one. I think he has a
Yep.
department total at the end. Let me just double check. No, he does not. So why don't we go section by section, bottom line? So I have facilities is 30,885.
Mhm.
Okay. Winter roads is 106,000 even. Okay. Fleet maintenance is 57,500. Fuel is 47,800. Road maintenance, 313,650. Supplies, 3,650, and admin, 5,325.
Yep.
And then compensation, add that one in for Public Works, 436,373,
Perfect.
which is a bottom line of,
1,183.
You say that just a little louder.
Sorry, $1,001,183.
1100183.
1001183. Weird number.
Right, I reversed it.
Jeez, I can't get this. Say it again.
$1,001,183.
Okay, you
One,
guys. Oh, I got it. 11001.
We're expecting those zeros to happen.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
not where you think they'd be.
Okay, I got it. Okay,
5.5% increase from.
that's it. That's the bottom line. And how much is that up?
5.5% from last year's budget.
Okay. I move that the Budget Committee recommends that the town raise and appropriate from taxes $1,001,183 for public works.
Second.
Right, thank you.
I just have a question. What percent changes that one?
5.5% versus last year's budget.
5% increase versus last year's budget.
Yeah, we usually look at budget in the sheet just because the actuals can be wonky from, period to period.
I'll note that too, that it's always versus prior year budget. Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to, this includes salaries, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I would just like to encourage the select board to move, at a quickly to look at the road commissioner's compensation and I would just suggest that it may be possible, although I don't have a concrete suggestion to put in front of you, to arrive at a compensation plan that doesn't require us to have a lot of history, but is still fair and would kick in were there to be situation that the select board would agree was above and beyond the current, what was, could kick in when it needed to, which is not a very smooth way of saying it, but I just think waiting and letting time pass and trying to let another year be used to assess what is a fair compensation method sounds logical, and I appreciate the care that the select board would give to that, but I think there has got to be a way to come up with a fair, not that today's isn't fair, but to make sure that we have a fair compensation package for the road commissioner sooner rather than later.
Maybe that's designed for fluctuating environmental factors.
Right.
Right?
Yep. Within what's allowed under Maine law, but obviously, but yes, designed for fluctuating factors.
Just for clarity, we're just looking to pay for actually like high quality performance and talent. Is that the?
Well, I think that the current, and it's been pointed out by Becky, by John last time during the meeting, by Andy tonight, that the amount of hours for the road commissioner really fluctuates. But in some years, including this year, he's salaried and he's putting in a huge amount of time above and beyond what you and I would consider a salaried person. Like nobody that's salaried works 40 hours. Everyone knows they're going to work more, right? But a lot of hours over the top because of the size of the crew, and that he can't just delegate the crew to go off and do big things like, when we have major storms and snow removal, he's right there, doing it with them. So it came up at the last meeting, and I know the select board is trying to be thoughtful. So I'm thinking about making sure it's competitive. Yes, to answer your question, Matt, competitive and fair. And I just think, people expect to be, and I think that there's a way to come up with, as Jennifer said, a flexible design that would be considered fair and may kick in or may not kick in, may cost the town more, may not cost the town more.
Sure.
So yes, I would say yes, I'm concerned about competitive salary and just general fairness. These guys work, like crazy. Well, he does. I mean, they all do, but he's not hourly.
Makes total sense. Yeah.
It's kind of similar, like in the administrator role, yeah, we're making the decisions and delegating, but when someone's out, the sleeves are rolled.
You're in it.
And we're in it. And the same thing with the road commissioner, he's delegating and he's managing, but he's in it every day too. He's running a truck or a backhoe when ditch work is being done, or he's plowing snow when it has to be done, and he's checking the roads in the winter. And so in the smaller government towns, that's usually what happens is your managers are in it as well. They don't have that person that's delegating and then everything's running fine while people are doing the work. And then having the rotation to give the break. We just don't have that flexibility here.
And I guess my bottom line point is that I don't think you need a lot of data to make decisions about you need some data, but we've got 2 years worth or 2 years of anecdotal to make a decision about, maybe there's not, but is there a flexible compensation, to use Jennifer's word, that could be put in place sooner rather than later?
Definitely take it under advisement.
Thank you.
And see if we can't come up with something.
And I know everyone agrees that we need to make sure that people are paid fairly. I don't question that at all. Okay. Any other discussion?
All those in favor?
I just want to check
That's it.
the warrant.
Yeah, and then what's
to
the
make
bottom
sure
line?
that there isn't any other places that the budget committee needs to do a recommendation, so.
Do we have a capital project fund contribution?
Yeah, so, Do you normally, because I just have that as a select board recommend.
We don't vote on that, I
don't-
think.
I think you
We-
keep it for
Usually it's just for
historical.
historical.
Yeah,
keep
let's do
it.
that.
So that's 156.
156.
Yeah, for this
And
year.
Was last year 155?
That sounds about right.
Yep, it was
Yeah,
almost equal.
$1,000.
Yeah,
And then the select board do have a warrant article for the town to vote on to transfer and appropriate up to 300,000 from the unassigned fund balance for the capital project fund, as they have done in the last 2 to 3 years. I don't know if you factor that in or not. Yeah.
I'm unassigned fund. Question about that? That decision was made, just going back to Jenna's point, that decision was made after seeing the bottom line on the budget for the proposed budgets.
To add that warrant
300,000.
article. Yeah, it's something they started 3 years ago. It came out of discussion from the budget committee, but also the cap committee had showed there was a real thin spot coming
Yeah,
in
yeah,
about 20 years. And so if we can do something a little bit with the fund balance that we had available, so it's kind of stemmed from a couple different conversations from,
Okay.
this will be our 3rd year in a row.
Okay, but there is, because the cap committee wasn't necessarily expecting that this year.
That's correct.
But it is with so in other words, the select board, a factor was that the select board is looking at the total, with all the circumstances we've talked about, the total increase in the bottom line budget and deciding that 300,000 from unassigned funds would help
Mhm.
mitigate impact on taxes.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. And is there a bottom line? I know we don't vote on that, but what's all the budgets together?
I haven't done that. math
Okay,
yet.
you haven't done that yet, okay.
I have it here, but it does include that 156. So I have.
Well, that comes out of taxation, so
Oh, good call.
yes.
So I have 2,412,810.
Okay, and what is that? Do you know what that is compared to last year's
It's a
budget?
9.3% increase versus, actually, bear with me 1 second. No, it's a little bit smaller. That one is not updated. Hold on 1 sec, sorry. So 9.6%
Okay.
increase year over year.
Okay, but we've already gone through, there are some major factors driving that
Mhm.
number. Right, okay, great. Thank you.
It's a $220,000 increase versus the prior year budget.
Thank you.
Which the good news is, our town may have increased in value by close to the increase over this year too.
What's that?
The town may have increased in valuation.
That could be, yep. Our assessors were doing the field work now and she'll have all that data in and hopefully we'll have
With new-
CMP
with new
early.
Building, is that what we're saying, with new people
Yeah,
living here?
New building and new.
Great.
Last year, what was very helpful for us to kind of give an example of what passing all these articles would look like in taxes is because CMP actually got their valuation to us in May. We usually get it the last week of June after town meeting. And they're required by June 30th to get it to us. And it's usually right at the end. And they got it earlier, which when the rep stopped by, I gave great feedback that was very helpful to get that information in May, just because we could come to town meeting and say, this is what at a $300,000 home you could look at potentially for a tax increase if everything is passed.
So put the bug in there.
Okay. Well, you have a contact now, right?
I think Donna does, our assessor does.
Okay.
All right. Is there any old business to come before the meeting?
Done, on me.
Any correspondence? Any other business?
Just a reminder for the annual report. That would really be your last task for this year. The deadline is coming up sometime in April. I'm not sure what date. I might have said April 14th or 10th in an email that went out in January, but it's been some time. And a reminder will be coming out hopefully soon. So that's something that I think we've talked in the past that you don't necessarily need to meet on. However, you want to be careful about group emails, so it should flow through the budget committee email. So if someone wants to draft and then circulate, just make sure that budget committee email is copied on everything. So for FOIA and protecting the quorum part of it is covered, so. Should be able to see last year's in the digital if you want to get like a,
Where,
Rough
where would
idea.
last year's be?
right in the
Okay.
digital form on the town website under About. The annual town meetings are posted right there. So the last year's annual town meeting should be up there and you would find what the budget committee wrote about. Just for example, and
And when is it due?
I'd have to go revisit, but it's sometime towards the beginning of April.
Guess I better get busy right now.
Yeah, I gotta remind you as well. I gotta send out a reminder email to everybody.
You're gonna draft it?
No, I.
He's got select
Oh.
board.
I've done it every year since I've been a select member, so,
And the dedication.
yes.
Matt, would you like me to draft it? Okay,
Nothing else to do.
yeah, I can, well, honestly, in a way, I don't,
That would be super helpful.
yeah, absolutely, yep. Would you guys be okay if I took a first stab at it? Okay.
It's like a one page.
Yeah, yeah, and I won't be covers. We added some other things that Bo was covering last year, so I think we can make it pretty.
It doesn't need to be Pulitzer Prize winning.
Yes,
you
yes,
know.
well, it won't be, but I will take a stab at it, so. And I know I still have to get you the minutes from last week, which I should be able to do tomorrow.
The Budget Committee Annual Report, a novel by.
Smarty.
It's really straightforward. Like I just read the one from last year. It's really straightforward. It's basically just a description of like what.
What we're doing. Oh, flying
We
squirrel.
have some flying squirrels in the attic.
Yeah, Jennifer and I heard it last
They're a
year.
little mad right now.
I'm not putting the flying squirrels in the minutes.
Well, they're hungry.
Submissions are due by April 17th.
April 17th. Okay, great.
A month from today.
So that's when they has to be finished. Okay, great.
Sent to me, yeah.
Sent to you. Okay, all right. I'll take a stab at it. And then you guys can edit and we'll go through the mailbox, you said, correct?
Go through the what?
The mailbox, which I have no idea how to use. So
Yeah, you just, as long as you copy budgetcommittee@paddlemaine.org.
then that's fine. I can
Yes.
send it to everybody, but also that.
Because what happens is that becomes a carbon copy. for-
Okay, I got
so it
you.
Protects the FOIA.
Okay.
But you just want to make sure, like, not to be having huge full discussions.
Yes,
with all
okay.
5 of you, yeah. But as long as the budget committee is the primary email it's going to, and the others are copied,
Okay,
then we're good.
okay, great. Thanks, Matt, for sending this.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna send it to B2 just 'cause
Okay.
Okay, any
I'm
other
done.
business?
I'm finished. Nope.
So if there's no other business to come before this meeting, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Do I hear a second? All those in favor? Okay.